Here is a new episode of Skibidi Toilet. This episode divides the series into before and after and shows us the price you sometimes have to pay for that long-awaited victory. The episode begins with the same scene that ended the previous one. Plungerman, using Red Cameraman's device, breaks through the door and approaches Red Speakerman. By the way, here you can notice a small difference with the previous episode. There is a Skibidi egg on the ground. I'll say right away that this is a comical reference by DeFuck. The next little difference is a little further along. As the plunger cameraman is getting ready to fly away, he notices a knock coming from the door on the right. Obviously, these are the Skibidi toilets that our team ran from in the previous episode. Plungerman takes off on a newly found jetpack, and when he lands, he looks around the corner where he sees a Skibidi looking around for live agents. Plungerman also notices the door and realizes they have to go there. He crouches down and tries to get to it, but suddenly the door opens and the Skibidi toilet comes in from there. By the way, it was at this moment that Plungerman started experiencing glitches with a greenish tint, and also the message, "Transmission error, recording error," appeared. In previous episodes, when the agents received this message, I assumed that perhaps DeFuck was involved, who did not want the recording of what happened to be transmitted or stored anywhere. Skibidi toilet leaves the room, and Plungerman, apparently already preparing to fight back, suddenly realizes that the Skibidi toilet is not paying attention to him at all. He looks at his hands and realizes that he has somehow become invisible. Turning around, he sees that Red Speakerman is also invisible to the Skibidi toilet. Plungerman notices a cameraman around the corner with a green glow under the camera, which also quickly dissipates. We find out who this cameraman is later in the episode. We also hear someone's voice when the door opens. Who it is and what he says I'll tell you a little later in the theories. Red Speakerman calls Plungerman to follow him. The door starts to close, but Plungerman breaks it open. Agents enter the room and see scientists communicating remotely with DeFuck. As always, I have a theory about this, but it will take a long time to explain. I will tell the plot of the rest of the episode first and then get to the theories. DeFuck says goodbye and ends the call. At the same moment, the interference and transmission error message disappear from Plungerman's screen. Scientist turns around and smiles, chuckling as he sees how few of the group are left with survivors. Scientist taps something on the control panel. It turns out he was activating a laser installation, which Plungerman managed to deactivate. But there were two of them and one of them shoots Plungerman. He dodges and turns it off. Scientist tries to escape through another passage, but Plungerman managed to close it. Judging by the look on Scientist's face, he was very surprised that the team had figured out his trap so quickly. But in this case he has a solution. He moves something on his remote control and black smoke appears around him, which, as we know, is TV Man's ability to teleport. He is about to say goodbye to the agents when Plungerman hacks his remote and cancels the teleportation. Plungerman challenges Scientist to a fair fight, which he agrees to. Scientist activates another laser that has been with him all along behind his back and shoots Plungerman. He manages to dodge the hit with the help of a jetpack. A spear from Red Speakerman flies toward Scientist. Then Red Speakerman himself attacks Scientist with a knife, but Scientist manages to block the blow. Plungerman rushes to Red Speakerman's aid, but receives a powerful blow that stuns him. We see Scientist take Red Speakerman and rip him in half. After recovering, Plungerman attacks Scientist again, but Scientist still manages to grab the agent. The badly wounded Red Speakerman tries to distract Scientist with the help of a jetpack by sticking a knife in his cheek and breaking his glasses. This helps, and Plungerman throws his plunger right into Scientist's left eye. This makes him very angry, and he prepares his laser to take out the annoying Plungerman. At the last moment, Plungerman manages to defend himself with his cannon. But even so, Scientist manages to seriously injure Plungerman. Then we see Scientist shoot a laser at Red Speakerman. At next moment, Scientist picks up the device from the floor and turns the control panel back on. He laughs at Plungerman and tries to teleport away again. Suddenly the door on the left opens and we see Big TV Man with a cleaning crew. Obviously they managed to get into the lab. TV Man says, "My technology," and turns on a hitherto unprecedented dark glow that absorbs the black smoke of Scientist, thereby cancelling his teleportation. These seem to be new abilities of the TV Men. Scientist's teleport is cancelled and he warms up the yellow laser again. He shoots it at Big TV Man. but he manages to turn on the white glow and knocks him over, destroying his laser installation. The cleanup squad shoots from their guns at Scientist, but he seems to be unharmed. He types something on his remote again, activating a mechanism that expands the floor of the room. Scientist jumps down. Big TV Man sees something and says, "Retreat immediately, I order the squad to retreat." It turns out to be a new mega suit of Scientist, similar to the one we saw earlier. Scientist, grinning, shoots into the passage. Suddenly the right door opens and Speaker Woman, Camera Woman, TV Woman and Big Cameraman with a laser gun appear. The women quietly fly up behind Scientist and Big Cameraman starts shooting at him. A struggle begins. Scientist tries to hit Big Cameraman with a laser, and he shoots back, dodging the lasers, but at some point Scientist still manages to catch Big Cameraman, and he falls, badly wounded. Scientist once again, for the umpteenth time grins and is ready to finish him off when suddenly all his installations begin to cut down. And he himself begins to scream in pain, to crash into everything and ultimately falls. As it turns out, these are women who made their way inside the Scientist's suit and is already starting to shred him. Scientist, covered with wounds, throws them away. The women, in turn, are ready to repeat what they started with him. By the way, here we see all the upgrades of the female squad. Scientist is not stupid, and when he realizes that all his traps are over, he tries to run away. He types something on the remote control again and takes off. We see that the dome of this laboratory can also be opened. And to Scientist's surprise, he sees 3 Titans. Scientist starts to scream desperately and runs away from the Titans. But Cameraman Titan manages to grab Scientist, heats up his core and simply fries him, then transfers him to TV Man Titan. He in turn squeezes Scientist very hard, thereby breaking his jetpack and claws. TV Man Titan transfers him to Speakerman Titan. Speakerman Titan suffocates him, and we hear that Scientist is no longer able to scream as heartbreakingly as before, only gasping with his last breath. Speakerman Titan examines him, then turns his speakers to full power, then picks up Scientist and slams him against the roof of the complex several times, finally leaving only fragments of him. The rest of the Titans are astonished at Speakerman Titan's cruelty. But it is understandable, as the Titan has spent countless days destroying his allies and friends because of Scientist and his parasites. The badly wounded Plungerman removes the lens, and we see how Big TV Man teleports back here. He is also seriously injured and carries on his shoulder 2 agents from the cleanup squad whom he managed to save. He says it's just a scratch. Plungerman crawls up to Red Speakerman, near whom a detachment of women is already located. He grabs his hand, and they say goodbye for the last time. Red Speakerman did not survive this battle. He and Plungerman have always been friends, even though this mission quarreled. Red Speakerman died knowing that Plungerman no longer held a grudge against him and that the mission was finally accomplished. Plungerman looks at Camerawoman. Suddenly his screen starts to glitch again, and the usual message about a transmission error appears, which means that DeFuck is planning something again. Further, Plungerman notices the deceased Red Cameraman, who quickly and unexpectedly disappears. Then he sees how the twins appear out of nowhere, who should also be dead. It was their squad that left them died, closing the door. They both shake hands, and then pay attention to Plungerman and begin to shine a green light on him. Suddenly, Plungerman is transferred to the room in which DeFuck is sitting at the table. He turns to the Plungerman and says, "Well done, thanks to you that Scientist is cooked." However, bigger threat is coming. At this moment an image of an Astro Skibidi appears. That's why some things have to remain secret. As he says this, one of the twins apparently approaches him and hands him the disc. DeFuck also says, "There is no evidence left, except one thing." He points to Plungerman and says, "This battle. You did not survive, Plungerman." Plungerman again transfers back where we no longer see the twins. His screen begins to malfunction, and we hear the sounds of a short circuit and also see that sparks are coming from Plungerman. In the upper right corner, a new inscription appears, "Critical damage." We see Camera Woman wants to help Plungerman, but TV Woman stops her, realizing that Plungerman is beyond help. Plungerman looks at the sky, which lights up a new day. There, as before, Titan Cameraman stands. Plungerman gives him a thumbs up for the last time. Titan looks at him, and the screen captures the fire. We see the inscription, "Camera offline." Now let's take a close look at the details that at first glance seem incomprehensible and make up theories. First, let's try to understand what DeFuck said when the door to scientist's room opened. In fact, it's almost impossible to make out the words. But I think that DeFuck was intimidating scientists to fulfill a part of his plan, but scientists did not want to cooperate with DeFuck. It is possible that DeFuck asked scientists for information about the astro toilets. This would clarify DeFuck's cooperation with scientists and what he was doing in his lab. Now, let's discuss what happened at the end of the episode, and probably the main question on many people's minds is whether Plungerman survived. When the twins' cameras looked at Plungerman, they most likely transmitted an image, with the help of which DeFuck was able to contact Plungerman. We see that on DeFuck's table there are not quite familiar things. There is a camera, a TV and a column, as well as a green folder with documents and a computer with a keyboard and mouse. In my previous video, I proposed the theory that DeFuck is the creator of the agents. It seems that this theory is beginning to come true. I have long suggested in my videos that there is another race, namely computermen or PC men, and this computer on the table is another plus for the involvement of DeFuck in this race. Let's move on to the question of whether Plungerman survived or not. My answer will be yes and no at the same time. My theory is as follows. When DeFuck talked to Plungerman, he said, "There is no evidence left, except for one thing." DeFuck wanted there to be no evidence that he was present at these events. Because it was not in vain that he violated Plungerman's signal in those places where he was directly or indirectly present. But why is DeFuck trying to get rid of the evidence? The astro toilets can find out something about DeFuck and his abilities if they understand that he is involved. DeFuck understands the full threat and realizes that without him, the agents will not be able to deal with the astro toilets. He has decided that his presence must be kept secret for the time being. So DeFuck decided to destroy Plungerman. But what if the disc that gave him one of the twins contained something like Plungerman's personality, his memories, his skills, his soul? Thus, although DeFuck destroyed Plungerman's physical body, he was able to keep an excellent agent so that he could be restored in the future if necessary. This theory is supported by the caption "Camera offline." After all, when we saw Cameraman's death earlier, there was only emptiness. This episode turned out to be the best episode of the entire series, and DeFuck once again managed to outdo himself. This is the longest episode of the series, packed with emotion. The staging of the action scenes is top-notch. Let's wait for the Astro Toilets arc. That's it for today. Write your theories in the comments, give a like, subscribe to the channel. Bye everyone.